Today is Columbus Day, or Indigenous Peoples Day, I guess depending on your viewpoint and who you are. And I would like to talk about that a little bit. I mean, things that, of course, when I was young, which was a long time ago, 1492, sail the ocean blue was something you learned in grade school. And I read this the other day, and it was interesting. If someone was transported from 1500 BC to 1500 AD, they would feel at home. The world would be very little changed. They would be able to acclimate quickly to any new changes that might have come about. And Columbus came here in 1492. Since then, 1500 we'll say, the world has changed dramatically. And that has been because of the quote-unquote discovery of America by Europeans. Now, there's a college professor the other day was talking and was quite ashamed of the fact that Europeans had come here and had taken over and everything. Now, there's something everybody is missing. Human beings have been taking things from other human beings since there have been human beings. And when the Europeans got here, the indigenous people, the American Indians, whatever you want to call, were running rampant over one another as hard and as fast as they could. The Aztec, and I mentioned this in another video, were conquerors, and they had subjugated huge numbers of people who were more than happy to cooperate with the Spaniards to overthrow the Aztecs. Same thing for the Inca. They were an empire, and yes, they did things, but if you really look at them, they had not done, they were really that way behind the rest of the world. And when the Europeans got here, and believe me, somebody was going to be here at some point in time, whether the indigenous people liked it or not. And they're really not indigenous. From what I understand, they came via a land bridge from the Eurasian area into what's now Alaska during the last ice age. And evidently they have found evidence of peoples who lived here before those people got here. So the human race has been in a constant movement since, as I said, there have been humans. I mean, Europe was overrun many times and had their quote-unquote indigenous people wiped out, converted, subjugated, whatever. And that's happened in Africa and Asia and Middle East, which is really, I guess we would say, is the cradle of civilization. That's been ongoing. If you just go back, I think the year 4500 BC, there was an empire in the Middle East, in the Mesopotamian area, where one city-state conquered the other city-states, and that is ongoing. So the thing is the world right now is better off. The 500 years plus since the discovery of America, the world has improved dramatically. Yes, there's been a hell of a lot of bad things happen, but that seems to be the nature of us. We seem to not be able to live without doing that. And there are a lot of they call themselves social justice warriors, who think they're going to change that. And all they're going to do is right now is they're weakening the civilization that has done the most to make the world better for everybody than any other civilization in history. So on this day, if you get a chance, you need to think about that, because what we are and who we are, yes, Western civilization has done bad things, but every other one has also. And that's not a I'm not saying everything is relative. It's not. I think the difference is we really have tried to improve. In my lifetime, when I was younger, I think the world's better off than it was in many, many ways. In some ways, it's worse. But again, that's the nature of we humans, is we just can't leave things alone that are working. We have to try to change them because we think we can. And many, many, many times we make them worse. So because we don't think about the consequences. And there are always, always those unintended consequences. So Columbus will be revived. He will, because he did an amazing thing. I mean, if you think about what's the Atlantic from Europe, it's 3,000 miles in dinky little wooden boats, which were the best things around at that time. And that's the other thing is, as I said earlier, somebody was going to get to North and South America at some point in time. And the continents, both of them, were underutilized. You had vast swaths, millions upon millions upon millions of acres that weren't being used for anything productive. Yes, there were Indian cultures here who had learned to adapt and live, but like the Plains tribes, which get a lot of press now, they were the Plains tribes, and they were romantic because they had the horse. Where did they get the horse? From us. So that culture was only around for about 200 years, roughly a little bit less than the time the United States as a nation has been around. So everything moves along, and right now a lot of people think this is the thing, they think if they destroy it, they're going to make it better, but none of them have offered to give up. That college professor I mentioned earlier, I don't see him offering to give up his life, which I probably is fairly cushy, in order to go back to wherever his ancestors came from in Europe, and use that life, so forth. So the United States, Western civilization, has for the average person, life is immeasurably better for the average human than it was 500 years ago. And you need to think about that before you really try to destroy it, which is where we're headed. But you guys have a good day.